Hi, you guys. It's your girl Jocelyn. Thanks for tuning in, and many of you will want to stay tuned in. What if I told you we were living in the days of Judgment Day? And today will be interesting because I found out a lot during my rebirth, around the time Jesus also had his rebirth after a long darkness of hell on earth. And today, I will be explaining the heavens of earth that I found out within myself. Not only am I the world's biggest genius, but I am also God's chosen one, meaning he sent me on earth as an angel in disguise, like he sent Jesus. And during my mission in the dark night of the soul, meaning hell on earth, I've discovered my biggest gifts now that I am living in heaven on earth, just like Jesus. And I also want to mention, back in 2018 was when I decided that the poverty life was no longer for me. Those who were close to me were no longer for me. At this point, I have been crucified by the government. I have been crucified by the world. I have been crucified by those in my family. I have been crucified by those who called me their friend. I have been crucified by society of those in my community. And not only in my community, but those who are hiding behind religions and churches, and also in high positions of nonprofit organizations, authorities, and high organizations. And I will be revealing those today. But today, I want to give you a little background of who I am and where I come from. As many of those in my family, in my community, they know me as Kuda. My name is Jocelyn, but my nickname is Kuda. And also, I'm going to discuss how I was led to Kundalini Meditation, which in fact I was led, like I said in my past videos, by India Ari, because I am divinely connected to spirits from the spiritual realm where divine God is and all our ancestors and angels. So I am divinely connected to the spiritual realm, which is why I'm an empress and the chosen one that God sent on earth, like I said, like he sent Jesus in disguise. I also connect with the spirit of Beyonce. As many of you know, her song is called Spirits. Jay-Z's new album is 444, which is synchronicity, angel numbers, that I've also mentioned in my past videos that helped me along my journey, because my ancestors, they were divinely connected through music. And as we know, music is what enlightens the spirit. And dancing is a form of healing our wombs and just falling into, I think. Anyways, so Kundalini, the spirit of music, sent me to Kundalini Meditation. As many know, this is how you spell my nickname, Kuda, Kuda. And Lynn is the last part of my first name, which is, in fact, Lyn instead of Lin. And my first name, Jocelyn, has 7 letters. And as you can see, Kuda and Lynn together is 7 letters, which in fact, I made a video in my past videos where I suffered a lot of abuse. And it explained that a psychic had gave me a path number 7 and told me if I had followed that journey to leap out on faith, it will lead me into greatness. And it in fact did. So path number had, she gave me was 7. 7 had already been my favorite number because it had already been just me and 6 children my whole life. So my whole struggle, my whole ambition, my whole everything that I had lived and survived for, I did it for the 7 of us because I have always been a single mother for the last 20 years. And also, I've realized that I have always had a gift, thinking back to my childhood where I seen a spirit. And I first want to go back because something just clicked in my head. Okay, so when we lived in the projects, our old address was 919. I can now resonate with 19 because 19 is my birth date. My birthday is 11/19, my birth date. So 919 was my old address. 19, which is the last 2, resonates with my birth date. But to move on, I've always had a gift to see things because when we moved to our first home outside of the project area, but still in the poverty community, our address was 1138. And 11 is the birth month of me, my mother, and my youngest daughter. And also 38 was around the age my mother was the age. I believe my mother had moved into that home. And in that home, I had one day seen a spirit. And we had never called the spirit a ghost. We had always called what I've seen a spirit. And that's how I addressed it to my mother after I went crazy and was traumatized. And then I had to move with one of my mother's sisters. And at the time, I was also having lucid dreams of like animals. I would always dream of a cat with red eyes. Red is the symbolization or the symbol of the root chakra, where all the traumas, pain, anxieties are stored at the root of us. And it was a white cat, which represents purity. And I didn't understand these dreams. And on top of it, I would have nightmares that I was falling from a cliff, and right before I smacked the pavement, I would wake up. And that was kind of teaching me awareness and to always stay awake to things. But I didn't see these things back then. And back then, I was completely traumatized, you know. I started to wet the bed because I didn't know what to do. I were having these astrologies. I was connected to astrology. I was having these lucid dreams. I just didn't know what was going on, which caused me to wet the bed because I would express this to my aunt. And, you know, she didn't know what was going on. She just thought I would wet the bed because I was lazy, and she would whoop me and didn't understand that I was traumatized. And on top of it, they tried to sage the home, my mother's home, before I moved out. And in fact, they was trying to sage it to remove the Holy Spirit. In fact, it did nothing but made the Holy Spirit protect the home from what was happening inside our home back then, where I've also found out that the traumas and the things that I did adore as a child, I will cry and write these things down and want to give them to my mother from what I was experiencing while she was at work. And I would rip it up and throw it in the garbage, because back then, a lot of us were taught that we could not tell on other adults, because especially if you were left in a home with that adult, because you would just know that the certain punishments you would suffer when that parent leave again. So you have no choice but to tuck it down to the root of your feet and just keep sweeping things under the rug. And that's what was building up. There were important things that were happening that I felt like I couldn't discuss from being in the home with this person, and the things that were happening. Although I didn't suffer abuse, I did become a healing source to someone who did. And because I did, and I had the gifts to do that, Spirit came to me and decided to protect the home, to make sure things will go safe. Which explains when the home caught on fire, nothing was damaged but the cabinets, and that was it. Everything else stood because it was a solid foundation of security for us that God had personally provided for what my mother was doing to help those in the world that, like I said, that needed help with healing, with personal care. And she was also a STNA, so she was out helping others. And while she wasn't home, certain things did happen that was not her fault. That wasn't anybody's fault, but the person who chose to be in low vibrating energies and not have good intentions. But to move on, I've noticed these gifts within, and also I've noticed that I've always just been different from people. Like, people could always catch on to things and I couldn't. I just didn't know who I was, and I would ask God, who am I? Because I was really lost as a child. I became confused because my family were taught to listen to the book of religion, where they were cursing the spirit instead of honoring the Spirit of God. So when they seen that I was divinely connected to the spiritual realm, they actually tried to curse the spirit. And because they tried to curse the spirit and I was divinely connected to the spirit, God had to put me into disguise to protect me. So I had to come out of this darkness to reach the light. And it also explains why my son is a genius. Like I've mentioned in my past videos, if you guys want to check it out, I believe in my school system, battling the school system video, I had mentioned that my son was in a kindergarten on a 5th grade level, and they had held him back instead of skipping him up. And by the time he was in 1st grade, he was on a 6th grade level. And the principal deliberately held him back. And I fought the school system, and the people over the school board told me that the principal had that right, even if I did not agree with her holding my son back from being a talented, gifted child that he was. And he could have been in college around that age, because at the age of 2, he knew what Spears was. He knew that 90 days was 3 months. He knew things that other children didn't among the family. And I think my family seen these same gifts that I had within myself as well, because I've also have another son who is gifted and was in fact 2 grades ahead of his time. And it was only 2 grades because he's kind of stuck in low vibrating energies. But once he works on himself, he will be able to be where he's supposed to be, along with my other gifted son that was held back by the government. And because we were forced to, be born into the poverty area. And anyways, to move on, I'm going to work with him to make sure that he gets back to where he needs to. But it's been a long journey, 11 years of finding out who I am. Like I said, 11 is the most powerful number in the world. If you guys want to check out my angel number, 7 and 11. My birthday is also the 11th month. 2021 was the 11th year that I was able to tell my story on how I took on the world and the government. God over government. Remember that battles will never be over blessings. People can throw rocks, people can throw stones, people can throw bullets, people can plot to kill you, but nothing can take you down for what God has in store for you. And this is why I was called the high priestess, to come and make a difference. And I've also had the natural gifts to heal people. So even as a child, I had healing abilities, which explain why before I moved back home with my mother after seeing the spirit, my aunt, she had unexpectedly just caught like an abscess where her jaw was out. She had a really bad achy toothache, and her daughter, oh gosh, she was so sensitive, and she would cry about everything. I mean, just scared of everything. And she would just hide when people, when things just scared her. I don't know. But she was a very sweet girl. She just was scared of everything. But anyways, her mother was screaming and crying, and she started crying, very sensitive. And I examined, and I'm looking at her jaw and I'm looking at her screaming and crying. She is like really in pain. And so I walk to the kitchen and I follow my intuition and my natural instincts. I notice every time she would pull out my tooth, she would give me salt water for my mouth. And I made hot water and I put salt in it. And I also had put a warm rag in the microwave because I've always watched her. I would catch hay fever in my eye, or, you know, whatever we just needed a warm cloth for. I've examined her use the method of the microwave. And so that's how I learned to just, you know, warm up the rag in the microwave. And I took it upstairs and I gave it to her along with a cup of hot water. And once I put that on her face, and when she drank the hot water, she just laid there calmly and went to sleep. And also, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm taking notes because I'm not going to keep starting these videos and doing a lot of editing. I'm just going to be comfortable just talking. I also had the gift of calling to those who've experienced deaths. So I know a really great friend of mine that I've mentioned in a past video. She was a very great walking angel that had a purpose also in the dark night of the soul. And she was in a poverty area with me at the time. We were both struggling, rubbing two pennies together. I was in a, you know, a more fortunate position, but not too much, just barely making it outside of the project area. And she lived in the project area, and you know, she was more of the at-home mother because she was just a natural nurture, and she loved to cook and clean, and that's just, she nurtured, she was just a natural nurture. She was sitting here to, you know, nurture her children and to just be that good spirit, you know, to bring joy and to just, you know, be a great person, a great woman of humanity. But anyways, there was a situation where she was in, and I offered to, you know, take her son in. He was best friends with one of my chosen sons, and they were very connected. They almost looked alike. They were wild. They loved to flip and just, oh God, they were like twins as soul. So, you know, I told her, you know, just they can stay with me. He don't need clothes. He don't need nothing. They all can wear, you know, clothes among each other. It don't matter. They're boys. They're just clothes, material. Do not define anyone. It's just the love, you know. So she was uncomfortable, but she like, you know what, okay. And she made sure she provided food for us, even though I didn't need it. But you know, that's how you knew she was a child of God. She still offered things that she could, you know, and took them to church and just try to be a very prosperous person that she was. But I had an anointing and calling one day. She had had a big surgery and she was just fine. When her family members had just seen her, and something just called on me and one of my family members to go visit her that day. Everyone was happy. She made it out this very big surgery. It was very serious, and we were happy. We wanted to go see her. Everyone wanted to go see her because we were all concerned. And on our way, me and my family member, we were just happy to go see her. We had ran into her mother. Her mother was going to feed her children and take them juice and, snacks, and everyone was just in good spirit. But when we got to the hospital, my family member thought that, she was just maybe asleep. But I was examining her, and I would tell her that's not right. She isn't supposed to look like that. And, my family member just wait till the nurse come in. And I'm like, no. So as I'm like, this ain't right, the blood work woman come in, nurse come in, and I'm telling her something is not right with her. She is sitting there, and she don't look like she's taking a nap, and I'm calling her name and she's not responding, and the blood work nurse is just looking at her pad and saying, oh, you may want to just take that up with her nurse. But by the grace of God, as she's saying this, the nurse is walking through the door, and I said, and no, the blood work lady says, she's saying something is wrong with the patient, but I think she's just taking a nap. And the nurse says she is just taking a nap. Ain't that right? And she called my friend's name, and she kind of shook her, and it didn't look good. And so the nurse immediately panicked out the door, and my family member, taken aback as a child, just, jumped behind the chair in the corner, and it just took me back to our childhood. And I looked out the window, and it was snowing out of nowhere, and I said maybe we should call, her family, because they were my friends too. And, my family member didn't think that we should do that, and it was the doctor's job. So we kind of just, left, and her son was at my home, and I had told my job, and my job was so nice to let him just have whatever he wanted, him and my son. And they also just gave him whatever he wanted. Just whatever he wanted. He got it. They got it. And they had fun. And the hard part was taking him to his grandmother's, because that was best to do among him and his siblings, was to gather them to tell this beautiful angel story. Also, I was guided to a mother who was having fertility issues. She, in fact, I don't know, God just called me to the hospital. She, in fact, just wanted me to be there. And right when I got in the room, that was the first time, an angel was placed in my arms. A fallen angel from the womb was placed in my arms. And I went with this family to, pick out the baby's clothes and to give them comfort and to give them my support, to give them just anything that I could offer, because I felt, I knew how I felt. In fact, I lost 3 fallen angels, so I knew what this person felt. And that's why God called me to this person. I had also been to children's, reunions as well. And I was also called upon by a past close friend of mine. In fact, one time me and her were pregnant together, and I lost my baby and she had her baby. And that was very challenging for the both of us. I was so proud of her to have that baby because that was something she had always dreamed of, and it was so beautiful for her to have and to be married and live the life that she lived. And oh God, that's all she ever wanted, and she had it. And she was also just very, very sweet as a teen, to adopt a child that she loved dearly, and that child is her child, and her grandparents adopted this child because they see how much she fought for that child, because that was something she just tried to have at a very young age that she wasn't ready for, but this child prepared her for, which was very God blessing to see. And in the midst, like I said, I had to experience things, and I had lost my baby in that beautiful moment. And I was understanding, and at this time I had more children too, which was better for me to heal myself and to be even more happy for her. And there was a situation where she had lost one of her children, and God had called me to her, to take care of the expenses and take care of, everything that I could for her, just to, give her that comfort and support that she needed. And, I went down there and I bought the baby everything, the outfit, just everything that I could do, not only me, but other friends as well, past friends as well, and, others who were close to me at the time too. And we had all just did what we can do, and to be there and to support. And I also realized that what I did as a child with expressing my emotions, with journaling them, writing them down, crying, and releasing my emotions and how I felt about them. My psychologist informed me that I was in fact healing myself. And when I would be done getting over these emotions and how they made me felt after I would lock myself in a room and cry, I would rip it up, shove it in the back of my pants pocket, throw it in the bottom of the trash, or even wait till I walk down the street to throw it in someone else's trash, to be extra careful, so nobody could see the crumblings of what I've journaled, especially from the guy that my mother was dating. Like I said, I didn't personally suffer any abuse from him. He was, in fact, a very great person to me. He was like a father to me, and father figure that me and my brothers had. But like I said, people with dark souls and negative, low vibrating energies who refuse to heal themselves become this demonic character that people read about in the Bible. But those who are of compassion and understanding see things just for a better eye and can have better compassion once we heal those wounds. Which in fact is another reason why I was strongly, divinely guided with astrology. I noticed a lot. I would see 222. That was also one of my siblings' birthday. Also, a number my mother hit the lottery off of. Just a number I have always seen as a child. And I've also seen a shooting star when I was a child on my way walking home from my grandmother's, which explains a lot of why I was divinely connected to astrology. Like I said, as a child, I seen 222 a lot. It was actually one of my siblings' birthday. My mother had hit the lottery off of 222. It just always followed me, and it made me look it up, and that's how I learned more and more about my spirituality and angel numbers, because I then start to see the synchronicities and that things were not a coincidence. They were divinely guiding me on earth. And also, I was very connected with psychics. When my mother used to buy the newspaper, I would always take the newspaper. I would read astrology first, read my horoscope, then I would do the crossword and then the crypto quotes. And me and my past friend, we would prank people like my mother, her mother, and just everyone, and act like we were the psychic Cleo. And this explains one reading that my soul tribe does for me. I was looking, and I don't pay for readings. I resonate with the free soul tribes that's on YouTube. If things resonate with you, they do. If they don't, they don't. It's just they go by energy. And what we are taught as demonic is, in fact, the right way of living. And like I said, the government had altered the book of religion, and many know that and still choose to listen to the book of religion. But to move on and back to this subject, in one of the readings, the woman had mentioned for confirmation is Cleo. And I said, wow, okay. So during my awakening, this stuck with me before I hit this rebirth. Also, which explains why Dr. Sebi, back then, when I was going through mental illness, a guy that I was hanging with, who also comes from a Christian family background, he just don't believe. And I start, because of the controls and the demands that the family had on me, it taught me, it just gave me, low vibrating energies when it came to trying to release this control that was brought onto me, this curse. And I would ask him, like, is it wrong for not believing in Jesus? And he like, no, friend, look at me. I'm living every day. I'm fine. Nothing is wrong. Like, you can believe in him or not, and I choose not to. So that gave me the confidence that I needed, because I didn't have any confidence. People would think for me. People would come take over in my home, run over my home, just, oh God, run all over me. And it was people among the family, those who were close to me at the time, just people, however they wanted to treat me, they treated me. And because he made me examine him, I said, okay, no matter what, I believe in God. And it was causing me not to believe in Jesus because of what the book of religion was teaching within our families and within our government. And so when Dr. Sebi, I got introduced and divinely connected to his spirit and learned upon him, I began to order Dr. Sebi, syrups and organics and like Yanni's things. He also have dental powders to help with teeth decay. He have a lot of healing things. And back then, 2020 was also where we had kind of hit the Great Depression and things started falling apart with the George Floyd. And we had to stock up. We hit the pandemic. A big virus was going around, things that is mentioned in the book of religion, but people is looking at it as a imaginary cartoon vision instead of here on earth. And those people are the false prophetess and preachers, disciples, and non-leaders who is hiding behind the book of religion in churches. Not all, but a lot. Dr. Sebi gave me a vision to see clearly that we all have natural human gifts and abilities to natural heal ourselves with the proper diets and the proper exercise, the proper detoxes, just the proper way of loving your body. But those who teach demonic kind of look at things who and not take accountability on what they are feeding into their bodies. A lot of people are eating flesh of an animal who was put to sleep full of fears, anxieties, and things that wasn't good for them. And like I always tell people, you are what you eat, you are what you think, and you are what you attract. Meaning, if you're not living right, if you're not eating right, if you're not thinking right or making the right choices, you will attract those to you. You will attract that kind of life. But if you live prosperous, healthy, respectful, doing God's work for humanity, you will transform into something beautiful each time. Which explains angel numbers. Like I said, many of you want to go back, see my 7-Eleven angel numbers. I've also learned a lot more with numbers and the meanings of them, which also gave me the clarity that I needed on things. needed to see on things as well, with guiding me and giving me more knowledge of who I am and where I come from. And like I said, I strongly believe I come from the bloodline of Jesus. Also, I know a lot of the times in my childhood and teenagehood, the crew that I hung with would play a lot with demonic games. And when we were a child, they would play with the Ouija board, and I would instantly, immediately be pushed to leave out the house and go home. And I would, and wouldn't go back over there for a few days. And even when we were teenagers, they will kill cats and kill possums. One time we were walking through an alley, us and a group of children that we had linked up with, and that day everyone had went stealing. I was always the one that was scared to steal, so they would have to steal from me because I would tell them, I'm sorry, I can't, it's wrong. And they'd be like, just give it here. And they would take the blame for me, which I thanked them back then. And they also taught me how to smoke. So I was clearly around the wrong crew. And one time we had walked into an alley full of snakes, and before I knew it, every child thought it was okay to pick these snakes up and just throw them at people, like at each other. And I took off running, and I locked them out their home. And another girl came beating on the door. She's screaming, she's crying, she's panicking, and they were wigging me out, and I was going crazy. And she like, let me in. I'm like, no. She like, please. She crying. And I open the door and I let her in. We start hugging each other and try to get that spirit off of us. And they will also play a devil game where they lay on the ground and beat each other up. And I would immediately go home. So I was always just kind of born into and just been around low vibrating energies, around those in the low income and poverty areas. And I say that not to say that there is not anything wrong with poverty in the low income areas, because they're not. I've been there, I've done that, and I understand. But we also have to understand everything is a stepping stool. If we choose to live under the government, we choose to get treated how Jesus got treated, how Jocelyn got treated, and how everyone else with cold cases get treated, being framed like I did, was treated, with losing a baby in jail and getting injustice like I did and was mistreated, being my own lawyer, filing my own paperwork, sending out my own copies to everyone who was involved with my false arrest. I took on the world of abuse. So if you want to live that life under the government where they own you and can stop when your child can eat, that's the life you choose. But for some of those who don't want that life and just wants to live with dignity, humanity, respect, kindness, and to see each other, uplift each other along our way, well, then you will get God. So many people should recognize God over government. And because I did, I start to see the serpent, which is snake dreams. I would go to my psychologist and tell him, and also I want to mention, he's very Christian as well. Like I said, there's a lot of Christians who are good people. There are a lot of Christians who are false prophetess and false Christians, and they do not represent Christianity, and they do not praise Christianity for what Christianity is. They are in fact still believing the old age of what's being manipulated. So these people have a choice to use their knowledge to follow the truth of heaven on earth or hell on earth, or this false illusion that they are reading and are omitting that has been altered and known that Jesus is not Jesus in the book of religion. And many of you can go back and check out my new video, one of my newest videos, Who is Jesus to You, which will explain a lot. Also, karmic cycles. This is where it gets real. Also, karmic cycles. I've noticed when I was a child, my mother had 2 boys and a girl. I was the youngest girl, the only girl, always wanted a sister, and that was something that my mother was not going to have. And we had a dog, and it was tan and white, and his name was Bogey. So once I got older, I ended up having the same karmic cycle as my mother. Only this time the universe shook things up into a different form, where she gave me the life of my teenagehood. So the oldest 3 that I had, which was a girl and 2 boys, were the children who was raised with me during my journey, during the beginning of my journey, where, like I said, 11/19, my birthday. 11 was my birth month, and like I said, 19 was the age that I started my journey, and I dated my first drug dealer in a poverty area with having my second child. 16 was when I had my first child, and that was also the age that she matured and, became a woman. And this is where the karmic cycle went back around once I moved into another rebirth. And this is when I lived in a different set of the poverty area, other than where I had my first son with my first drug dealer. This guy was my first true love. That was a drug dealer, my narcissist, manipulator. He was Satan in disguise that I had to battle against to tell my story to help women today properly heal themselves and to get over their karmic cycles. Well, anyways, and then the karmic cycle went around again, where I had 2 boys and then a girl. And this time I was able to start over from experience instead of from scratch where it started. So this time the universe kicked it back around into the proper format of 2 boys and a girl. And this is where I was able to correctly raise my children from experience and to fix my mistakes. And also the karmic cycle, oh God, I mentioned a lot. I'm realizing back through my awakenings when I made the videos on abuse. So a lot of my abuse videos, and also be sure to check out the Undisciplined Disciple, where it explains what goes on in the churches and those who hide behind the Christian book of religion and those who are preaching the word that is not told correctly by God. I experienced being pushed out of a car by a preacher, tons of abuse, along with a past friend of mine. Also, there were a lot of people who were gay that were preachers in hiding, a lot of cheating, a lot of partying, drinking, cussing, smoking, whatever you can think of. They did, which in fact is why majority of us are taught to find us an older man in church who is actually the molesters. These men are paying the church bills. They are donating to those in the community with the mask on. Us women who are single mothers, they are looking at us with money and trying to lust us in with money to do the devil's work. And when they know we are at rock bottom and we don't have a dime to feed our children from the fathers who left out and walked out on us, these men in church still continue to help those in a community while molesting the women who are hardworking and taking care of their families, to lust over their bodies, with taking a lot of their soul. And a lot of people who are paying the church's bills, donating to those in the community, and putting on this mask for those in the community and those who's wearing the mask behind the churches, they are in fact molesting women who are single mothers with money to lust over their bodies. And if these women do not agree and do not submit to the lust of their money, they will not help that single mother and will starve her and her children over their own deceiving ways. These men know that these single women and single mothers who are struggling and in suffering are in need of help. And they are denying us in the church. They know that they make us throw up on the inside. In fact, this person also knew I didn't have any form of transportation to work, and they decided to purposely quit talking to me so I could lose my job. And when I confronted him and said, hey, are you ignoring me because I don't have sexual desires for you? He said, yeah. You said no. So yeah. This person even tried to molest me with his money, with buying me a car to get to work. And I paid this person back in cash. This same person was still not willing to stop trying to molest my soul at rock bottom. And he, in fact, looked at me one day and said, "You're disgusted by me. I'll make you throw up." And he knew that was true. But he still will try to molest me with his money. And the more he did, I started to see more of his closet. And I told that person, "You are demonic. What you're doing is not right. You will get caught. You are not doing God's work." And it showed one day. He was talking to me about his child and how his child was going to college. And I was like, really giving him deep advice. Hey, you need to quit working so much. Be there for your child. They're in need. This is important. They're doing a lot. It's so much this child has to get prepared for. And this child has no support. And I finally got this person, this malicious person, to get it through their head that what they were doing was wrong. And they start to open up. Well, I want my child to go to college. So they start being there. The fact that he was trying to, force his child to go to the same college as him. And I'm like, hey, like, things are different. Children want to go with their friends and do what makes them happy, go across the world. Like, you can't keep forcing your fears on to your children. If they feel like they want to jump out and live a big life, you let them. Like, this is something you wouldn't do, and you're passing that fear and energy on to them. And the more I'm expressing myself, I'm seeing more and more of this mask he was wearing. And I would always call this person a creep because that's just what he was to me. That's the spirit he gave to me. And those in my family, would be like, don't call him that. And no, he's a creep. And I said, I think you did something to a girl in college. Like, you're a creep. And he kind of put his head down. And I said, oh my God, you did. What happened? And I kind of pushed it out of him. I wouldn't let up until he said, all right. And he did. He molested somebody in college and he paid his way out of it. And that's why he think he could keep doing what he's doing in the community. And he also admitted to sleeping with the prostitutes in the poverty area, which is why he just made my soul kind of just get sick and vomit from the inside, because he was trying to use manipulation and control instead of being God's humanitarian. And because he did, he chose the consequence that he serves. And we have to also remember, for every choice, negative or positive, there comes a consequence. You can mishandle a situation or you can handle it correctly. There were also more preachers, priests, as we know, molesting the children in the church. I've also, which is this right here, is the biggest. When I say the biggest deceitfulness, witchcraft I have ever witnessed in my life, which I was just under spiritual attack, and God was divinely guiding me. So in my new beginning of moving out the poverty area, and always remember, new levels, new lessons. Most people say new levels, new D words. I don't say the D word because that ain't who that is. I don't believe in that. I believe in positive people or negative people. We don't have nothing demonic in a spiritual realm. We do not judge. We do not do anything low vibrating. But to get back on point, my new beginnings, my new lessons, and also my new lessons, like I said, new beginnings, new lessons, new levels. And this where things was about to get real, and I learned witchcraft, which I was just under spiritual attack. Also, after my awakening, which was this current one that I just had, and having my rebirth after a long, dark, cold winter, now that the sun is out and the flowers are blooming, and you know, we just celebrated Jesus' Resurrection Day. I want to bring in my enlightenment, my rebirth, my psychic awareness of every flashback that I've had from those who wronged me. I've went to some of the highest people in churches, in organizations, in high authority with my story, with my proper healing, meditation, to help the community, to help the world, to help those, because that was my calling. And I was denied. I offered to do community service for a higher authority of nonprofits, big organizations, big high authority positions, and to help our young youth, young ladies, be properly cured, properly healed, and to help them get over their traumas. And I was denied. This, in fact, was a person who was performing some kind of black magic on me.